Hi, it's Achim from InnerSpace Explorers. Yeah, where do I start? First of all, I'm sorry it took really long to get back to you, but yeah, after I came back from the expedition, I did this result video, and then obviously, yeah, being absent for 2 weeks from my business took quite a bit of it took quite a bit of time to get back on track. And then there was a couple of private things that needed attention and time, and I also have a bit of a travel schedule. So yeah, it just took these 2 weeks, and now I finally wanted to answer all these questions. So as on the last project, obviously there was a lot of messages coming in asking things about the expedition. I wanted to take the time to answer them. So the first thing basically it's yeah, seven questions that came up over and over again. So that's what I want to focus on. So the first question that came up a couple of times was, how did you find the wreck? Well, you need to watch the series. So I think I explained pretty much in detail how I did that and how the research was. If it was a technical question, and that I wasn't really sure, because the question came up a lot of times, but not really specific. So technically, I found it was a side scan sonar. So I calculated a position based on my research, and then from there I just basically searched around that. So in fact, it was 3 positions based on likeliness, so to speak, and I started with the one that was in my opinion the best chance, and then the second chance, and the third, and I actually located 3 targets. One in the end was a reef. The second one is a wreck. That's pretty interesting because it's nowhere to be found on any map, so obviously something new. Haven't dived it yet. Sorry. But it was way too big. It looks more like a proper freighter or something like that. It's way too big for Thestis. And then there was something that I ran over a couple of times and did not really think it is something, but yeah, it was in the right spot. And regarding this, the percentage, the likeliness, it should have been the wreck, and in the end that's what I've been diving, and it was Thestis. So as you probably saw in the video, there was not that much left, and it was really hard to see it on the side scan. I ran over it quite a few times from different angles until I finally decided, okay, that seems to be a target, and I want to test that. The other thing is, and then basically also on that, quite a few people asked, like, how did you anchor on that wreck because it's so deep? I did not anchor. I think I explained that in the video where I explained the dive. So I set a shot line, and I went then down that shot line and sent the weight of the shot line back up, and I did a free drifting decompression, a free drifting ascent. But we did not anchor the boat in 120 meters of water, or 110 meters of water, whatever. So that's nonsense. Theoretically, obviously possible, but doesn't make any sense at all. So the other thing is, how much did the expedition cost? And that's a tough one. I mean, you know about the crowdfunding that I did, the GoFundMe. The link's still in the description. And obviously, a lot of you have no real feeling for how much that cost. And in fact, I can't tell you. I didn't really write it down step by step because it was a very long process. And again, if you watch the series, you get a better understanding of it. So at some point, I traded in the logbook, and then I spent, I think, 2,000 euros to have it translated, and then flying to this archive and traveling there and reading here. It was just summing up. So the actual expedition going there, well, I needed a bigger boat. As you know, my second business, or my real business, is boat restoration and trading boats. So it was not that hard, but obviously outfitting a boat, there was some engine work to be done. And when it comes to boats and boat engines, it's 1,000 here, 3,000 there, and so on. So that sums up. Then obviously driving down the boat in tow from here, which is around 1,000 kilometers back and forth, actual fuel cost at the moment. So I think simply the fuel to get it there and back was like $1.5 grand. The boat itself was 2 engines, which we needed because we were pretty far offshore and I didn't want to go there in a outboard dive boat with 40 horsepower on it or something like that. And the fuel consumption of the boat is around 140 liters per hour. So the trip back and forth is about 3 hours, and we did it 4 times. One time we had to abort because of bad weather. Then we did one run where we basically simply located her, and then I did 2 runs with a dive each. So that alone was another almost 2 grand, especially as fuel for the boats on the water filling stations is way more expensive than if you fuel up your car on the road. Some idiots stole the propellers from the boat, so I had to get spares there, which was another 1,800, and so it keeps going. So I cannot give you a definite number, but it was considerable amount of money that went into that expedition, and therefore I'm really happy and thankful for all of those that supported the expedition through that GoFundMe. Thanks a lot. Again, really, really, really appreciate it, and I hope you got something out of that by joining me on this adventure. That brings me to the next question. Did you find any gold? No, we didn't find any gold, except for that ring, which I still have here, but that is silver. But that was the only precious thing I found, except for the bell here, which is not of real value, but it was obviously a great find for me, and it proved me to be on the correct wreck. My theory on that clearly is that it doesn't make any sense that Bjarne managed to leave the boat, take this box with him with his logbook and some other private stuff and his navigation instruments, and leave his treasure, his gold, his money basically on the boat. So I assume that was in the same box, because that was the one where he had his private belongings, his valuables. And it doesn't make any sense that you aboard the burning ship and take that box but leave the money somewhere else. Then looking at the time where this happened, thinking of that island and that it was basically a prison and there was this guard, so probably somebody with not a lot of money, and you suddenly are in front of this chest. The owner of the chest is more or less dead, and you're in front of that chest, nobody's around in the middle of the night. You probably can't even blame that person, but I'm pretty sure if there was something in that chest, he took it out and then reported the rest. And everything else, for me, from a personal standpoint of view, doesn't make any sense. That's more or less what I think happened, and that's why we didn't find anything. The other thing is, I mean, it could still have been that he reported the chest and somebody else just took the gold or the money or whatever was in there and just left the rest. But we don't know. But there was nothing on the wreck. The second dive I was with a metal detector, and theoretically, of course, it's possible that the ship was burning down, was going down, and there is stuff around the wreck somewhere. But I, at the moment, cannot see how to probably search for that. I told you guys I have an ROV now, and theoretically, yes, I can go there with the ROV and check with the ROV. The likeliness of finding, especially coins or smaller stuff underneath the sand with the ROV, is 0. The other thing is we would have to anchor on the wreck to get the ROV down to the wreck in a proper way, because otherwise, I mean, free ascent from a drifting boat to a wreck, that doesn't make any sense at all. So for sure, that's a possibility, but the likeliness is minimal. So I consider that yeah, more or less impossible. So that also answers a little bit the next question: are you going back to that wreck? Most probably not. So for me, I did my research. I successfully found the wreck. I dove it. I proved it's the right wreck. So for me, it's a round story. So I'm happy, more or less. Of course, it would have been cool if there would have been more, not necessarily the gold or whatever. I mean, I never did it for the treasure, but if you want to call that a treasure. But generally, it's a round story. So I'm happy with that, and at the moment there's no plan to go back on that. Yeah, but you never know. I mean, I might be. I'm there a lot. I might be there in the area. I have my ROV. It's perfect weather conditions. I decide I wanna play with the ROV and see how it is to anchor in deeper water, and I might choose the Thestis as the proper spot to do that. But in fact, underwater there's really not much to see. I mean, what you saw on that little bit of video is basically everything I saw. It's some pieces of wood in the sand. There's really not much more. So the next one is, are you happy with the result? Yeah, as I just said, I am happy. As that there could always have been a more spectacular output or whatever, but generally I consider it a successful expedition, and also for myself it proved that my work was all right. I did everything right, so the research, the calculations, the tracking of the wreck, all of that worked out the way I wanted it. And so for me it's a step, a successful step in a row of expeditions. The first one went well, the second one went well, so they also get more complicated, so to speak, and so I want to focus on the next thing. So the next question is, what's next? And I have to confess there was another expedition, which it was at the same time frame, but I never made that public, and that was also more or less successful. Can't tell you too much about it because it was a group of people that basically financed that and for a certain outcome, but it was also a wreck that I've been looking for, and I found it and I dove it. It was a bit deeper, it was 120 meters, and I found what I was looking for, and I'm not sure how that continues. Same thing, we basically would have needed the ROV, and as I said, I can't tell you too much details about it. Maybe when it's completely finished, I'll probably make a video, but that depends a little bit on the group of investors that is behind that project. But so I had a lot of focus on that as well. The next project that I'm focusing on is that aircraft. There is, in the same era, should be a bomber, a Fiat bomber from First World War. We know it's there. I have a pretty rough idea of where it is, but the problem there is it's a lot of underwater mountains and valleys, so to speak, and from what I know, it seems to be in one of these valleys, basically like that. And I've been there a lot with the side scan sonar. Actually, over the past 5 years, I've went over that area again and again and again and again. I couldn't find anything. So what I have to do there is get in the water, take a scooter and a rebreather, and simply look around. So it will be a lot of underwater time. And that's one of these projects that's probably hard to present in that way because the research is minimal. We know it's there for a couple of reasons. But yeah, that's probably something I'm gonna present when I find it, because otherwise it would be hours and hours of video of me scootering along and looking. So we'll see how that goes. And I have another couple of things that I'm working on, but I have not yet decided what's the next one that I'm gonna present in a video series, because I don't know really what's the next one where I get the next puzzle piece, so to speak, to make it a round picture and then present it to you. So what I want to avoid is to start with something and then start with something else and then go back to this one, and then there's a year where nothing happens and then get back to it. Also, I want to present you a series. And even on the Thestis one, there was a couple of long breaks because I started it and then the weather was bad and then the boat broke down and we had these interruptions, which I basically want to avoid. So for me, it's also a learning curve, and based also on your feedback, I want to become better and better and better and present this in a more appropriated way, and in a way where you can follow in a shorter period of time, like really follow a series. Okay, I know next Saturday the next episode's coming, and here the weather and travel conditions and COVID and all of this actually kind of forced me into a time schedule that I didn't like. So we'll see. You guys following me will be the first ones to know when there's something new coming up. In the meantime, I'm obviously getting back into my weekly routine. There's a long list of video topics and things I've been asked to present, which I'm happy to do. And that actually brings me to the last question and an introduction to the next video, because a lot of people ask me, like, how could you do this deep dive on a kiss rebreather that is basically not rated for that depth? And in fact, I made a video on that while sitting on the boat preparing for the dive, and then I didn't edit it in the last video because it would have been like 50% of the video, and I wanted to focus on the outcome of the expedition and the bell and everything else, and the second dive, the ring, the bone, etc. And I didn't want to go too much into technical stuff. So in a couple of days I'll edit that and send it out, and this will answer the question on the kiss rebreather and why I choose it, and how it worked, and so on and so on, answering this specific question. All right, if you have more specific questions on the expedition, on technical matters of the expedition, etc., put it in the comment section. I'm super happy to answer them. If you want to discuss stuff in real detail, check out the Patreon site. That's normally the community where we have a more private sort of conversation and where I spend more time. If you like the series and you have not yet done that and you want to support it, please click on the GoFundMe link. I'm still super happy if there's a little bit of payback on this expedition. And other than that, I really hope you enjoyed that. Take care, safe diving, and I'll see you in a couple of days with the video about the kiss rebreather. Bye bye.